Hey guys, it's Kevin in my review for Queen and Slim. And what Queen Slim is essentially about is basically we center on these two people. They're on a Tinder date that really isn't going all that well, but basically while they are on their way back, they end up in this terrible police situation where they're pulled over for a very small traffic violation, but things escalate pretty quickly, and Slim, in an attempt to save Queen, ends up actually killing the cop, and now these two are known as outlaws. They have to go on the run and basically try to do what they can to escape from all this, but also having to deal with the public perception that is basically, starting because of all this. So Queen and Slim overall, I was very excited for this film. This seemed like something that was going to be very impactful, but also very eye-opening in that way. And it was the kind of film that I was very interested in seeing how it was just going to turn out, because there have been many films about like police brutality and things like that, but nothing really to this extent. And I was excited to see how it was done overall. And for the most part, Queen and Slim really did live up to my expectations. This is not a great film, but it is a film that I definitely really did enjoy, and I think definitely does do its job for the most part. And we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. And that's easily one of the best things about this film, but especially when it comes to the main two actors here. I mean, both Daniel Kaluuya and Jodie Turner-Smith, both of these two are fantastic. They both give very strong performances here. And I mean, Daniel Kaluuya, we already know this guy is really great. We know he's one of the most versatile actors working today. He is a bit more of a subdued role here. It's not as showy as you're expecting it to be, but he still does do a really good job. There's a very effective scene, especially with him calling his father, and I thought he did a really strong job there for sure. And overall, he just gives another really good performance here. But it's Jodie Turner-Smith who I think completely steals this entire movie. Queen is someone who is very quick to act when she needs to. She doesn't always make the best decisions, but you can see how this has affected her. She's someone who always seems to have a plan in motion. She's very much taking charge of the situation, and Smith just completely kills it in this role. And especially for what is essentially a breakthrough role, it's very impressive to see just how much passion was put into here, how much effort she put into this role. I mean, there's no signs of her being a newcomer, and I think overall she just did a very good job here, especially one scene involving her, recalling something that happened in her past. I just thought that she did a really great job here. The chemistry between these two, though, it's some of the best of the entire year. They work off of each other so well, really bring out the best in each other, and it's easily one of my favorite duos of the entire year. And I think the film is worth watching alone just for the chemistry between these two and how well they work off each other, making for what is for sure one of the best duos of the entire year. Everyone else here, I can't really say a ton about. Bokeem Woodbine definitely does do a really strong job. I thought that he was actually a lot of fun whenever he came on screen. I definitely really did appreciate him. But everyone else, I can't really say too much about because they're not really in the movie all that much. It really is Queen and Slim's movie. I mean, yeah, obviously the movie's called Queen and Slim, but the movie really is these two. They share the majority of the film together. And again, while the other roles are definitely well done, these two are really the big performances that stick out. So if you're excited for like Chloë Sevigny or Flea, not really in the movie all that much. They do a good job for what they have, but I can't really say a lot about them acting-wise. But now let's get to the directing and the writing here, which the directing in this film is fantastic. Once again, for what I believe is a directorial debut, I mean, Malina Matsoukas does a really good job in capturing the story. You can tell that she really does care about this for sure, and to my knowledge, before this, she only did, like, music videos and things like that, and it really doesn't show here. I mean, she has a real eye, I think, for when it comes to directing a film like this. She has the right tone throughout the entire film. She actually also has, surprisingly, a lot of levity here. There's a lot of wit that I wasn't really expecting this film to have, and I think she did a really good job with that, but she also doesn't hold back, really, at all. I mean, you can tell that this is a movie she really does care about. She really is putting as much effort as she can into it, and I thought overall her directing was pretty great here. I was very impressed with the way that she helmed this film, and the writing here by Lena Waithe, I've always thought that she's a very talented writer, and I think for the most part, she does a really good job here, especially when it comes to the way this situation is first portrayed. It's horrific, it's very relentless in that way, and you're very much like Queen and Slim, where you really don't know where to go, you really don't know how they get out of this situation, and I think that she does a really good job with the writing here, but she also makes a wise choice in making that not the focus of the film. That is obviously the situation they're in, but the movie really is about these two getting to know each other, and these two finding a bond that seemed almost out of reach at first, because as I said before, this Tinder date does not really go all that well. It's very average, you know. Queen wasn't really even all that into it, and you can see that she was very put off by Slim at first, but because they're forced into this situation, they basically have to get to know each other. They're the only people that can depend on each other right now, and I think the film does a really good job in getting these two to care about each other and getting them to a place where they care more about the other one than they do about themselves. This film is far more than just Bonnie and Clyde, you know, like a modern version of Bonnie and Clyde. It's far more than that. Like I said, it really is about these two, and I think the film does a really good job, especially when it comes to the character of Queen. This is a character that's been through a lot. There's a lot of pain that she's gone through. She also is an attorney, and there's a lot of stress she's had to endure because of that, especially one reveal that was truly heartbreaking. But again, she's someone that is doing whatever she can to get out of the situation. And no, she might not make the best decisions, but overall, she's someone that really does try the best she can to get out of this. And I think they do a really good job of getting you to care for her for sure. But also the social commentary in this film, I think, is very well done. What the film is trying to say about police brutality and things like that, I think is very important. It's a very effective message. The film definitely does not hold back in that regard, especially towards the end. Holy shit, they don't hold back with that. And I thought they did a really good job in telling the story. That being said, I don't think this is an amazing screenplay, and it really is the thing that keeps this film from being great, because while I do think the film does a really good job with getting us to care about the character of Queen, I don't really think they did that with Slim. There's some really good stuff with this character. We see how odd and how put off Queen is by him at first. There's a really great running gag with how he chews food that always I thought was very funny and always definitely did get me. And there's a lot of fun scenes of these two getting to experience things for one last time, because they always know that the cops might come after them or that they're on borrowed time. But aside from a few little things, we don't really get into his character all that much. He feels more like the guy that is there to support Queen. And I think the film needed to do more to really get us into this character. So I actually cared about him, because I cared about him because, again, he was a charming character in that way, and he was definitely very likable, but we don't really know much about his backstory. We don't really know much about who he was, and from listening to Lena Waithe, this was a deliberate choice for sure. I get what she was trying to do, but I just think they could have done a better job with getting us to care about Slim overall, and I think that definitely did bring the film down a bit for me. I also will say the film definitely can get very repetitive at points. I think they could have done a better job with handling some of, you know, because at first, obviously, the film, by design, it's going to put Queen and Slim in this situation where they can only be with these people for so long, but once it happened, like, the third or fourth time, it was starting to drag for me a bit, and I think they could have done a better job with that. I also do think this film is just a little too simple. I wish it was a little bit more complex of a situation. I like the social commentary that this film has to say about, like, legacies and things like that, and I think they did do a good job with that overall, but I just wish the screenplay was a little bit more complex than it really was. It doesn't really reinvent the wheel in the way that I was expecting it to, but overall, I do still think this is a solid screenplay. It's witty, you do care about the bond between these two characters. It has some really good social commentary. There's some very effective moments, and overall, I do think Waithe did a solid job for the most part. The cinematography here, though, is fantastic. There are so many just gorgeous shots in this film that I really did love for sure. One especially that is absolutely horrifying, and one that I think will stay in your head for a while. You'll definitely know it when you see it, but the cinematography here is definitely very well done. You really do feel like you're there with Queen and Slim throughout a lot of the movie, and I think they did a very good job with that throughout a lot of this. And the score here also is just simply fantastic. Every single song choice they use is great, but the score as well, it's very powerful. It's definitely one that really does loom over the entire film. It gives it that exhilarating feeling that it really does need, and I think they did a really great job with that. And the editing, like I said, I think this film for the most part was very well edited. The first two acts really did fly by for me. I was into it pretty much the entire time. The third act is when things slowed down considerably. After a certain scene involving Chloë Sevigny's character, that's when the film started to drag a little bit more for me. That's when it started to feel a little bit more repetitive. And again, I think they could have done a little bit of a better job with that. Again, in regards to flaws, like I said, I really just wish I cared more about Slim as a character. I think that he's a little bit underwritten. Also, at first, I did not really like the ending to this movie as much. I thought it was a little too predictable. But in hindsight, it was definitely the proper ending. I don't really see how this film could get its message across without this ending. It was one that it needed. I think it was the ending that it definitely needed. I think that it's very effective in that way. But again, I think if they would have given us a little bit more time to invest in Slim as a character, I would have felt even more with how this ending went down. Because again, it's a very emotional and effective ending. And I really do applaud the film for going there. But I just felt that it was a little bit underwritten overall. Also, and somehow I stupidly forgot to bring this up, but the first, I want to say, 20 minutes of this movie, I thought were masterfully handled. The way the whole situation takes place, the way that all goes down, the setup to them getting pulled over by the cop, all the way to the aftermath after they have now shot this cop, I just thought was relentlessly thrilling. It's one of those things that really had me on the edge of my seat. And maybe that's why the rest of the movie I didn't think held up as much. I still really like the rest of the movie, but those first 21 minutes are truly fantastic and honestly could be a fantastic short film all on their own. Definitely one of the best openings to any film I've seen so far this year. And again, I don't really have a problem with the fact that these side characters are basically just that. I think they do a really good job with that overall. And the film also, I think, does a really good job of getting into how much Queen and Slim have inspired this nation. I mean, they don't even realize how significant of an impact they are making. There's a huge public perception that is going on. Some are very much for what they're doing, and some are against it. And I thought that choice was very well done. It's very subtle. They don't beat you over the head with it in any way, and that was definitely one of my favorite parts of the film, is seeing this revolution that these two really do start, that they don't even realize that they are really a part of. One scene especially involving this kid that was inspired by them, is easily one of the most devastating things that I've seen all year. I think they did a really great job with that. It's something where, again, it's very disturbing in that way, but it feels very real. It feels like Waithe really did do her research with this stuff. She knows very well what could happen in this situation. She knows what this just feels like. If this situation were to play out in real life, this is how it would go down. And it's sad for sure, but I think she definitely did handle it right. But again, overall, Queen and Slim, I think, is still a very solid movie. I really appreciate the social commentary that this film has. I think that the performances from the two main actors are enough for reason to see it, and the bond between them is very sweet. I love how much the film really does take the time to dive into their relationship overall, and I think overall this is a very effective film that is very much worth watching. It might not reinvent the wheel, and I think it needed to, and I think it should have taken a little more time to flesh out some of these characters, but overall, I definitely really did enjoy Queen and Slim. I think it's a very effective film that is definitely worth watching, and I'm definitely going to give Queen and Slim overall a B. But over, guys, in my review of Queen and Slim, let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall, left your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.